Hello guys, Middle89 here, welcome back to the channel. In this video I wanted to talk about communicating with the dead. In particular my experience I had back in, again, November 2020 when the sun was in Scorpio. Seems to happen, a lot of things seem to happen around that time. It's very true what they say when the veil's at its thinnest. But I was dreaming, and I was consciously aware in my dream all of a sudden outside an old friend's house whose dad actually passed away, I think 3 years prior, due to suicide, overdose, unfortunately. And I knew exactly where I was, and moments later he came out of the house and I saw him, and he was white as a ghost. And soon as I saw him I felt really sorry for him and went up and gave him a great big hug and asked him if he's okay. And I knew exactly what was going on, in that I was here, I was with this gentleman who had passed away 3 years ago, and I knew I was in the dream world, or this alternative reality, the realm of the dead, whatever you want to call it, dimension where lost souls are, who knows. But it was an exact depiction of this reality, but just a few slight geographical differences. So anyway, walk back in the house, and he leads me through the house, go into the lounge room, and I can see all these empty alcohol bottles, and some that were like half full. It just absolutely reeked of alcohol. So he sat on the chair on the other side of the room, and I was sat down in the chair also, and we were just talking about our memories together, because I used to play football, I used to coach one of the football teams. And I could tell he was suffering. I could tell there was a real heavy burden and energy surrounding him based on, how he took his own life, how he ended up passing over, which is obviously, made him stuck where he was in the house at that time. And I noticed, looking out the window from where the house was, it was kind of like conveniently right next to a shop where he could go and get all this alcohol that he was drinking, which unfortunately led to his demise. And I remember saying to him that, this is too convenient for you being here, and I try to tell him, you need to stop drinking and consuming all of this is really bad for you. And what was interesting in that reality, I remember on the TV we were watching like a rugby game, and I remember the rugby game was playing out, so we were kind of talking about our memories and stuff. I was watching the game, and even within the game, someone ended up getting decapitated. So again, it was like there was this like heavy resonance of death, surrounding everything that was going on where I was at the time. And so I could see the people in the stretchers come on, and it was really graphic, and the guy obviously, was completely decapitated, but it was just like, oh man. But this was like the dimension I was in. It was like the realm of the dead. And I could tell he needed to pass on. So I was trying to help him, basically discuss that you need to, let go of this. This isn't serving you. I kind of, didn't know what else to say, but then he started getting really defensive, and he kind of stood up off his chair, and he started like coming towards me, attacking me. As a result of that, and that's when I woke up. And when I woke up, I had like really, really strange, funny tingling sensations in the back of the head, because I knew I was in some kind of, other dimension. I was kind of pulled, I guess, because I've been opening up my pineal gland over the years and purifying my diet, and coming into alignment of, my higher spiritual self, and tapping into all these spiritual practices and learning lots in the occult worlds, spirituality. I obviously became like not a target, but maybe something he was able to call in for me to, go and see him, basically. And so what I learned since then is that this is obviously very common for a lot of psychics out there. So I'm just only sharing my experiences first coming into this kind of psychic ability of being able to communicate and be contacted by the dead. Which hasn't happened since, because I've realised that you need to dedicate certain times, if you are prone to being susceptible to this, in order to say, right, okay, only on this night or this time I'm open to receiving messages from those spirits who in the realm of the dead, or who wish to be communicated with for whatever reason, whether it's to pass on a message or to ask for help, because that's what we're here to do. If people have those abilities, we can actually help them to let go and pass over the veil rather than be stuck in that kind of dimension. And we can otherwise help them transmute and go through that process. But if we're assertive enough, because at the end of the day, the most universal law, which is governed by the Creator, is the law of our free will, and that always has to be honoured, even by those spirits who have otherwise passed over, who are stuck in between dimensions. And so if you set down the rules and the boundaries that you can only be contacted at certain times, then that will be respected. But since then I've not been contacted, but I've had plenty of like real lucid dreams, doing all sorts of different stuff. But I always designate, like, any time that anyone wants to communicate with me, I'd say, like, okay, right, tonight, if there's any spirits that wish to communicate with me, then please feel free. I'm here to help, as always. But what was interesting, I immediately knew when I was conscious in the dream, went up and just gave him a hug, because I knew he was suffering due to the circumstances of his death. And so this is otherwise tying into what they say about, committing suicide is a big taboo in the spirit worlds. People who, have the knowledge of this, that it's kind of not difficult, it's not impossible, but it's difficult to recover from and get back on track, because the ultimate abuse for any soul, unfortunately, is to kill oneself and neglect the experience you've been given here on earth. Granted, this system has been hacked by the Saturnian system and the councils in order to basically harvest energy, which isn't good. And so there's under the system we're currently governed by, obviously that generates a lot of unfortunate suicides. So I guess people just need to, forgive themselves, and that's the power we all have, because I think we create our own guilt, especially in the afterworlds. Wherever we go, it's just dependent on where you want to go and how you feel, in order to literally break off these belief systems of even karma and stuff like this. Of course, if you've done really, really bad things in this world and violated other people's free will, then you'd have higher kind of councils to answer to, who actually govern and protect other beings' free will. And this is the battle that's going on, unfortunately, because there's been a lot of violations happening. So inevitably, if you are in that position, highly recommend to try and help these souls pass over if you can, and offer them advice. I mean, if I could go back there, I would have known what I know now, really try to force the issue and get him to pass over the veil. And maybe that happened, because he's not contacted me since, which has been quite interesting, and I've opened up channels to him. And so maybe that one occasion actually worked, and because we had a correspondence during this life, he obviously saw me because I was in tune with my spiritual self. I came down and actually helped them out. Whereas so many people, unfortunately, in this world at the moment are just completely shut off from the spirit realms. And I know there's so many souls and so many spirits who are otherwise, and ghosts, otherwise probably trapped, in between worlds and dimensions, unable to kind of pass on in order to return back to their higher self and maybe, help progress and evolve their soul experience in these realities. But there's a lot going on, obviously, at the moment, with the energies increasing. So this will become even more and more probably rampant, people having these experiences. But I can only say what I've seen and witnessed firsthand, which is what I'm all about, because there's many more people who are more adept than me, you can see more things than me, but granted, I've definitely seen my fair share and coming into a lot of really occult knowledge. But it's all part of the evolution, because we're all heading back to where we were actually in our normal states before we fell through the densities. Like this to us right now is abnormal. It's not normal. When we're in a fifth density state, dimension, whatever you want to call it, just a higher frequency band, which is basically akin and in alignment with the rest of the universe, we are fifth dimensional, fifth density beings. We have supernatural abilities that otherwise we would see as supernatural in our current state, but we're heading back towards that. That would be completely normal. We'll be able to read people's minds, we'll be able to communicate before, telekinetically move objects, telecommunicate, teleport. Like, all these things should be afforded to us in these natural vessels. But we know all these regressives are coming and like put implants into people's heads, arms, legs, necks, whatever, to help keep the frequency just locked in, so that it's really slow and switched off all those psychic abilities and DNA, which we only got, I think, like 30% access to. The rest of the 70% is the so-called junk DNA, but it's not. It's otherwise just been switched off. So yeah, thought I'd share that experience anyway. It's cool, contacting the dead again around Scorpio. That's when the veil's at its thinnest, and obviously Scorpio generate, it's aligned with death and rebirth in the occult. So yeah, I found that very, very interesting. So this is what I look for. obviously around October, November time, I always prepare myself spiritually, because I know it's a high time for a lot of energies that come in. And yeah, don't be afraid of it. Always look to help. And that's kind of like the frequency I resonate and give off, because I like helping people, whether it be in this life or the next. You know, in this case, it was someone who was stuck between worlds and needed a bit of help to maybe move on. But he was in a very dark place, and I just picked up on that frequency of death everywhere. And so you've got to be careful. You know, you've got to master this realm and these bodies and your minds in order to, you know, create the reality you wish to live. And just forget the outside world completely. Come off the media and start creating what you wish to experience. And that timeline will be created for you. And how you get there, it doesn't matter. As long as you carry that intent with you all the time, you will, you know, carve a path in your existence in order to inevitably get to where you want to be as a god of your own universe. And so that's where we'll basically have a whole bubble reality where we can govern and live out ourselves with other beings coming into the game, so to speak, to experience. Just like we go to art exhibitions, or, you know, play someone else's game that's been published, or, you know, read someone else's book that they've created, this creative capacity. We can go and then enjoy each other's works. And this would be no different to reality systems. We can go in and experience each other's worlds, with obviously everything being above the surface. I think with this one, we've been tricked into contracting. And this is something I'll talk about in the next video, you know, which is really, really important to kind of just renege and rescind, vitiate all contracts, soul contracts that you may have taken up, and go back in the past. And this is what we can instruct our subconscious mind and star family and, you know, all our guardian angels and spirit guides to help us do that. And I think it's needed. It's definitely needed, because what they do in this reality is get us to, you know, sign a lot of these documents and not even realise what that actually means in terms of making you joinder to specific obligations and performances which tie you down in the two-dimensional realm, which keeps you stuck in the three-dimensional harvesting reality systems. But anyway, thought I'd share that. Let us know if you've had any similar experiences. I know loads of people communicate with the dead all the time, but I found that really, really interesting. And again, just another key marker along my journey, and probably what I need to prepare myself, but I'm already ready for it. If I come into that experience again in the future, that we're here to help, and these souls need help crossing over, and so you just got to give them encouragement. But yeah, I hope this helps anyway, in case this ever happens to you. Maybe gives you some more perspective and knowing how to deal with it. Alright guys, chat soon, take care, stay blessed.